Hello, and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and we're very glad you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We are continuing with a series on the subject of total biology, which is utterly brand new in this country, the United States. It's migrated from France and from Montreal most recently. We have with us today Claude Vallieres, who came down from Montreal. He has been a student of Dr. Claude Sabat, who we had on the show some time ago with Raymond Pajot, speaking about this most exhilarating breakthrough in understanding the relationship of the mind to the body. You know that this is a favorite subject of ours here at A Better World as we seek to shed light on this most important, ancient of all subjects, to understand the interface, the interplay of mind and body. Are they separate? Are they not? And if they are not, how are they connected? How do they speak with one another? Well, Claude is really very well versed in that conversation. He's been working with clients for the past several years up in Montreal, is known for running seminars all over Quebec, and people, so interestingly, are flocking for this information. And not just for the information, but for the experience itself of seeing their own story manifest as it shows up, that is, in their bodies. So we'll be going into some of the details of this. First, to give you an overview of total biology, which in some way is very well known to us all, especially instinctively, and to then go into the stories, the testimonies of people whose lives have been completely changed, in some cases from suffering from degenerative illnesses because of the work being done in total biology. Claude, a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, pleasure for me.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. So you have been a spokesperson, a teacher, a seminar leader, and a practitioner of total biology for some 5 or so years at this point.
Yeah, working with that particular approach.
Yes,
yeah, 5
exactly.
years.
And you have a background in neurolinguistic programming and naturopathy, some osteopathy.
Yeah.
So you've
Different
been
tools.
dealing with a few different interesting kind of psychologically oriented tools.
Oh, yeah.
But what is it that distinguishes this from everything else that you have done?
Well, this approach gives us detailed ideas of the link. We all know, most of us know, that there's a link between emotion and our physical illness or our mood, the way we get tired or not, But how does it work? And as I was working with different approach, for some of the approach I worked with, there were that missing link. Where it starts, where it's coming from, that particular disease, and why this person has that particular disease, and why the other one has another disease, why those cells are affected.
And not others.
Not others. So it triggers me, and I wanted to know more. So when I heard about the works of Claude Sabat, it changed my life, literally, for my personal issue. And then I start to work with that, and it goes well, and change lives of people. So I'm totally now dedicated to it. Even if there's amazing approach that are different, all of them can be combined with total biology.
Could you give us kind of a succinct definition of total biology?
Well, total biology is a concept that explains with precision the how and why this particular emotion, for example, we were not able to deal with, the how with the interface of the autonomic brain, affect that part of the body. So it's more like a concept that explains things. And there's the practical approach that use that concept, which is the biological deprogramming. So it's just the use of that concept of total biology and the practice with patients.
So you can kind of look at it in two directions. One is that, let's say somebody comes to you
Yeah.
and they are complaining of a certain kind of neck pain.
Okay.
Based on what vertebra it is,
Exactly.
or vertebrae,
Yeah.
that the problem is around,
Yeah.
related to, you will be able to know precisely
Quite
what
precisely.
emotion specifically they're dealing with. Is that what you're saying?
It could be an emotion, it could be a belief, it could be a representation, you know. For example, when...
The attribution of meaning to something.
Exactly, exactly. And we can say that it's a mix of all of this. So for each organ, each system, there's a particular issue. So what's wonderful with this is when someone sit in front of me in my office and say, I've got this or I've got that, I already have an idea. What was the emotion at a too high level that the person was not able to cope with? And to give a little idea.
A stressor,
Yeah.
basically.
Our nervous system works with electricity. So stress, lower stress, it's lower electricity level. And as we can see with magnetic resonance, you know, in the medical field, if we are really stressed, the energy in the brain goes higher, higher and higher and higher. So if we have an issue that we are not able to cope with, and it stays for months, we'll get exhausted and we can die. So the automated brain find a solution with that stress, with the interface kind of mapping, you know, take that stress into the biology with precision. There's no mistakes. Goes with the function, mainly the function. So, for example, I had that patient, a young lady that struggled with problem with the thyroid, and Hashimoto syndrome, you know, which is the immune system will go against the thyroid, and
Autoimmune deficiency.
yeah, exactly.
Issue.
And the thyroid was 95% destroyed. She was on medication for several months. As soon as she sit and said, I have that disease, I already know what's the problem. I don't know when the event occurred.
What did you know?
I knew that it was an issue related to time.
Not to growth, but to time.
Time issue. Because the thyroid works on the metabolism. If the metabolism goes low, it's like time that goes by are slow, you know, lymphatic people. Time don't go fast.
In a sense, from that point of view, because it speeds up experience
Exactly.
or slows it down,
Exactly.
or we should say our subjective experience of time,
Yeah,
it's at the body's timekeeper.
exactly. Exactly. And for her, what was the issue is she born as a twin.
She was born as a twin.
And her twin got bleeding in the brain something like half an hour after birth. And she got paralyzed. Half of the body was paralyzed. Not completely, but enough to be an handicapped person. And as she grew up, maybe thousands of times, a mother told her, if you're a good girl,
Your client, yes.
yeah, if you're a good girl, you'll wait for your sister. Don't go too fast, you know, wait for her. But as a little girl of 2, 3, 4 years old, that concept of waiting, you know, it's
Children don't like to wait.
exactly. She wanted to run with friends and, you know, to run after the balloon, you know.
Yeah.
So each time the mother was not happy, reprimanded her, it was a stressful situation. And that situation lasts. So the solution to go slower, to be kind for her twins, is to destroy the thyroid. And it goes with the immune system, and when there's an affection with the immune system, most of the time lots of guilt are hidden there. So we uncover that. I help her to release all the guilt she felt, to change that belief, to express all the emotion towards that issues. And it turns out that in a matter of months, her thyroid completely recovered. So the physician was quite astonished, but I have that on medical report. So it's so I knew, and total biology can't lie. You know, goes with survival program. So
Extraordinary.
yeah, it is.
So basically, there is some sentiment, there's some emotion, there's some belief system, there's some neuro-emotional program, you could say,
Yeah.
that the body hears, and the body is taking its instruction from the information that is given to the body via the brain,
Via the
through the brain.
through the brain, not our consciousness, the brain that deals with all the function.
The brain as an anatomical and physiological instrument.
Exactly. Like a computer.
Like a computer, like a governing computer.
Exactly.
And it instructs the body. So if it's to slow down, which is, the mother has one thing in mind, but the body takes it literally.
Exactly.
And affects the organ that controls slowing down.
Exactly. So it would has no mean to have gallbladder syndrome or disease or the big toes that will swallow. You know, there's no relationship between that issue and the bladder, or only the thyroid deal with that issues.
And if in a case like this, just as an example,
Yeah.
Claude, there was a bladder issue, that would just be another level of another complicating problem that had its own origin in another communication
Exactly.
made that related to the bladder,
Exactly.
which has to do maybe with holding on or letting go or any number of different,
Actually, the bladder retains urine,
Right.
isn't it? What does mammal do with urine? It delimits the territory. Boundary
issues.
So when we deal with an issue that we cannot be respected in our territory, that affects the bladder. Like a young woman, she had...
There's nothing like a story.
Yeah, nothing like it. It's
the juice.
that young lady, she was still living to her parents' place. She was 20 years old. 2 younger sisters. She had her own room, but all the time the younger sister went into her room, taking her clothes, her jewelry, things like that. She yelled, she screamed, she did everything. She asked the mother, do something. Nothing changed. And she was not able to put a lock on the door, because of security things and
So she urinated around the edges of the room. No.
the unconscious program
Yeah.
from the time that we were mammal. Because, as most of people know, if you look at an embryo a few weeks old in the womb of the mother, we can see in the development that there's, for example, I don't know the name in English, to the fish that keep
The gills.
the gills, a fetus, a human fetus, has that.
Yeah.
But in matters of hours or days,
Yes, it
it
passes
disappears.
through.
But we still have those cells here. Or later on, if it will be a female, there's a few pairs of nipples also that disappear. So that gives us the proof that we have in our brain the memory of all those really, really ancient times.
It's the
And-
recapitulation
Exactly.
of the
So we
original genealogy.
carry in our brain, in our hard disk, all the programs that those
Of the
animals
race, so
and
to
the
speak,
living being
of
had
the
to cope.
species
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and beyond, perhaps. Yeah.
So to delimit the boundary, it's not with the earring system, it's not the breathing system,
Right.
it's with the urine. So cystitis
Cystitis. Yes.
Cystitis.
Yes.
is the conflict of not being respected in my territory, for example.
Underneath what I hear you saying, especially from the story before, and from what looks like the way of causing the therapeutic resolution, is this idea of self-expression, of
Yes.
expressing the feeling underneath that's been suppressed. So we're familiar with this concept, of course, Freud being the
yeah.
most outspoken
Yeah.
person on the subject during the 20th century, certainly.
Yeah.
And so this idea is old.
For sure.
This is not new, and you
Not
can
at
go
all.
back to ancient Greek tragedy
Oh, yeah.
and comedy and look at the chorus expressing the feelings and the sentiments of the audience and of what was going on, and everybody experienced what was called catharsis.
Exactly.
That's the whole idea of the self-expression.
Yeah.
So, hardly new is this idea. But here is a woman in the urine story where she was expressing her feelings. Get out of my room. I want to put a lock on. Leave my stuff alone. But still, the issue persisted.
Yeah, because there were no effective solution. Even if she asked, because she was expressing herself, but there were no solution. She was asking the mother over and over and over for a solution, but there were no solution. Nothing changed. For example, one day she was working in a convenience store at a really low wages. She bought a sweatshirt, with Tommy Hilfiger things, $125. And thinking, next Saturday I will wear my sweatshirt to go date with my boyfriend. The next day, when she came back from work, her sister had the white shirt eating spaghettis.
Oh, the sweatshirt.
Sweatshirt. So even if she was expressing it, it wasn't solved.
So let's go to another point here that's underlying this,
Yeah.
which is that for whatever reason, because we have a premise here that there are no accidents,
Yeah.
everything
Not at all.
happens on purpose, based on biology, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I should really reference Dr. Bruce Lipton, the cellular biologist, because
Mm-hmm.
his work just interfaces with this so beautifully. Because he's looking always at belief systems and communication to the cells from essentially the mind and through language and from language.
Yeah, yeah.
And so his work just further corroborates the work of Dr. Sabah and Dr. Hammer, for that matter, in watching this entire epiphany occur in the interface of biology with the psyche. Since there are no accidents, this girl was pulling in, attracting a sister who had her own boundary issues, because it's exactly that this girl, your client, needed to solve.
Exactly.
Could you comment on that feature of the cosmic setup, if you will?
Our brain, which work with electricity, create a magnetic field, and we can say easily that all the brains are connected together on a certain level.
The global brain.
Yeah.
And more.
When we talk about relatives, parents, brothers, sisters,
Ancestry.
that link, it's really, really strong. So she needed to go through that issue, and to help her to go through, brain to brain, the sister push her, because the solution was to let go. As an example, she could let go. She can put all the stuff that are important in her closet, put a lock on it, There's plenty of solution. So when we're struggling, most of the time, we attract like the magnet from others event that will pop up, if I can say it like that.
An event.
An event,
Yeah.
to help us to become conscious of it.
So it's sort of like the person has the prison bars in front of them.
Yeah.
And they're holding and they're looking outside to the
Yeah.
world outside.
Yeah.
But it happens that the back door is open.
Exactly. It's a really good image, and it's also a good image because those bars, we can say that each bars is a specific conflict. So if I wake up, and I have, I don't know, a pen, just in front of my eyes, it will be so close that I won't be able to identify it. I will say, oh, there's something that disturbing me. I will be in contact with reality. Oh, this is my hand. But if it's quite, how to say?
Distant?
No, not distant, but in the same
line.
line
The
as
same.
my conflict.
Sure. You won't be able to see it.
So I will be like schizophrenia
That's right.
towards my conflict.
Exactly.
So we're normal people for the generality of life, but towards our conflict, we're not seeing it. So we are in prison with our own conflict. So we have to break down to become conscious of it and to free ourselves.
Exactly. It's almost like we're all here by agreement to assist each other in getting free and solving our conflicts. And as long as there's a charge for us, and that is some kind of stressful inner experience relative to any phenomenon in life,
Yeah.
we're hooked still by that bioelectrical magnetic resonance,
Yeah.
and we're therefore not free. Unhook from the stress, resolve the stress, and freedom is yours.
Exactly.
Is that what I'm hearing?
I used to say we're not free, not at all, but we are free to become free.
Yeah.
So it's up to us
Yes.
to look at ourselves and to deal and to transform our issues.
And so it would be fair then, Claude, to say that total biology is, in a sense, a map of the the relationship of the mind and the emotional life and the stressors therein and the conflicts and the issues
Exactly.
relative to the body.
Exactly. It's really precise. It's precise to the cellular level. There's no mistake if it's those cells of that organ that are affected. There's no mistakes.
So interesting.
It's a specific combination of emotion that will affect those cells. So there's no mistake. So
There's no mistake.
knowing that helps a lot with many kind of approach.
Yeah.
You can work with different kind of approach. If you know that, you will spend a few sessions instead of a few years to help others.
Exactly.
So it's wonderful works.
So on the one hand, there is the truth of biochemistry, and on the other, there is the power of a belief system, which will sometimes override biochemistry.
It's working together.
It is. Well, talking about working together, it's been a pleasure working with you.
Yeah, pleasure too for me. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Great to have you on. Thanks for helping to elucidate this
Thank you.
deep and beautiful matter.
Thank you.
It's really going to help a lot of people. So that was Claude Vallieres. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope you got as much out of that as I did. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. We will be continuing this series over time.